Tulara Lee. She's been in show business for over 50 years and has come out of retirement to speak about laughter in our lives. She's here today to present a few new wrinkles on longevity. Please welcome Tulara Lee.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning, ladies. Do you want to live longer? Of course, we all do. Well, studies now show that laughter may actually help us live longer. In a recent study by Dr. Thomas Pearl of the New England Centenarian Studies and co-author of the book, Living to be 100, Dr. Pearl says that the one common denominator among all the centenarians studied was not what we previously thought. It's not diet. There were too many different ethnic groups with too many different diets for it to be diet. It is education. We used to think that the more highly educated you were, the longer you would live. That's not true. But the one common denominator among all the centenarians was that they handled stress amazingly well. These people had endured hardships, they had lost loved ones, and some of them had even survived the horrors of the Holocaust. And yet, they were generally optimistic, and in most cases, they were funny. Dr. Pearl said they were funny. He said they use humor all the time. So maybe laughter really does help us live longer. And if we don't laugh, it'll only seem longer. But America is obsessed with youth today. Everyone wants to grow older, but no one wants to grow old, and especially to look old. So remember that the face that you have when you're 20 is the face that Mother Nature gave you. But the face that you have when you're 50 is the face you develop for yourself, because your face reflects your personality, your thoughts, and your attitudes. Now let's face it. We all get lines in our faces as we grow older, but it's much better to have laugh lines than to have wrinkles. George Eliot said, "Smile and you make friends, frown and you make wrinkles." It takes 43 muscles to make a frown. It only takes 17 muscles to make a smile. So smiling is easier. But have you ever laughed or smiled so much that your cheeks hurt? That means you're exercising those 17 muscles and you haven't been using them enough. So we need to laugh more. We need to keep our sense of humor. George Burns lived to be 100 years old, and he never lost his sense of humor. He always said that old saying, "It isn't how old you are, it's how you're old that counts." And I have to admit, I love being a senior. It's great. Well, of course, like everything else, it has its advantages and its disadvantages. The advantage is almost everywhere I go, I get a senior discount. The disadvantage is I forget to ask for it. But I'm so happy to be speaking to you today. I told my husband, you know, this is a special occasion for me. I really need a new dress to wear. Oh, he said, well, just wear your wedding dress. I told him I wore it once. And it brought me 45 years of bad luck. That's right. My husband and I have been married for 45 years. Well, actually, we've been married twice. Now, here's what happened. We got married, and then we got divorced. He fell behind in the alimony payment. So I repossessed him. exercise site. There's a lot of heavy breathing, but we don't get anywhere. I can tell you one thing. Whoever tells you that you can do the same things at 70 that you did at 20, obviously didn't do very much at 20. You know, I remember the good old days, girls. When you go on a date, he'd expect to take you out to dinner. Then he'd expect to take you to a movie. Of course, then he'd expect a little romance. But nowadays, when I go on a date, it's disgusting. All they expect is dinner and a movie. But my husband and I did get back together again. Oh, the man drives me crazy now since he's retired. He won't do a thing around the house. All he does, all day long, is just lie there on the couch and watch television. I'm trying to figure out how to hook up the couch and the TV to the lawnmower. You know, he believes everything he sees on television. The other day, he saw an ad that said, "Give your wife vitamin B12 and bring back that young, exciting woman." Well, he gave me vitamin B12, and he brought back that young, exciting woman, but I wouldn't let him keep her. You see, we need to laugh in marriage, especially after retirement, when we spend so much more time with our spouses. Now, most couples plan for their financial retirement. They have their IRAs, their 401ks, investments, whatever. But we also need to plan for our togetherness retirement. For all those things that you wanted to do when you had the time, make a list. It's an IRA plan, interesting retirement activities. That's what my husband and I did. We made a list. And number one on our list was to go out every week for a romantic candlelight dinner. He went on Tuesdays and I went on Fridays. Number two on the list was to go on a second honeymoon. How romantic. Well, Mr. Cheapskate took me to one of those elder hostels. It was full of hostile elders. So then we decided to go on a cruise. Well, I was so excited. I dug out my old bikini, and I could still get into it. I didn't know what to do with the other leg. My husband said, "Your pantyhose are all wrinkled," and I wasn't even wearing anything. But another thing we need for a happy retirement is good health. Now, we know that laughter is good for you, for your body, and we have to take care of our body, no matter what our age, because if we take care of our body, it will last us the rest of our lives. Now, other things are important, like diet and exercise, but do you realize that laughter is a form of exercise? Norman Cousins, in his book, Anatomy of an Illness, referred to laughter as internal jogging. And that's because when we laugh, we exercise our muscles, both internally and externally, from our hips to our shoulders. In fact, 100 good, hearty laughs is equal to 10 minutes of aerobic exercise. And that's great because I hate to exercise. I recently joined an aerobics class, but that aerobics class wore me out. All that bending and stretching and twisting and turning. By the time I got my leotards on, the class was over. The instructor said, "Well, next time wear something loose." If I had something loose, I wouldn't have to do the aerobics. Oh, but I was happy the other day. I got on the bathroom scales, weighed the same as I did in high school. Then I looked down and I saw my stomach was resting on the water. But you see, I'm not physically fat. It's just that I have taken so much children can create a lot of stress. And I should know that I've been blessed with 2 wonderful children. And 2 out of 4 isn't bad. But I must confess, I did not spend as much time with my children as I should have when they were growing up. I was a working mother. You need to spend time with children. And as a result, my children were rotten. I mean, they were terrible. Well, my kids were the kind of kids that I wouldn't let them play with. They were the scourge of our neighborhood. I mean, it got so bad. We finally got an electric fence around the yard to keep the kids in. The neighbors put it up. But I will say one thing. Those kids kept our marriage together. Oh, we would have gotten a divorce long ago, but neither one of us wanted custody of those kids. So it's very important to spend time with children. It creates a bond between you. When you're laughing together, you're laughing at the same thing. And it's important because children grow up so fast nowadays. They go right from puberty to adultery in no time at all. Now I'm telling you these things as a grandmother because I think it's time that we get rid of that old stereotyped idea that grandma should just be at home on a rocking chair. And who would know better than I? Everyone says I'm off my rocker. Now, I've been telling you these jokes to make you laugh, not just because laughter is so good for you, but to emphasize to you the importance of keeping your sense of humor in all the aspects of your life. It's very important. Find the fun and the funny in life. Have you ever been in a stressful or embarrassing situation and said, sometime I'm going to laugh about this? Well, that sometime is at the time. It will help you through that stressful situation. So, laugh. Be happy. You'll be happier and healthier, and you'll make those around you happier too. Of course, there is one thing I still find it hard to laugh at, and that is how everything is up nowadays. Oh, my blood pressure is up, my cholesterol is up, and now my time is up. Thank you very much. To introduce your speaker for today. His name is George Gilbert. George comes from a show business family. He began doing stand-up comedy at the age of 12. He has appeared at comedy clubs, conventions, retirement communities, and so forth. He has a degree in communications. He belongs to Toastmasters International, where he has earned his ATM, Advanced Toastmaster. He has made an in-depth study about laughter. He travels all over the country speaking to groups about the importance of laughter in our lives. In fact, in 2 weeks he'll be speaking in Miami at the National Conference of the American Association of Tissue Banks. And he's here today, well, because of all these things, so far he's been able to avoid getting a real job. He's here today to speak to you about the importance of laughter. Please welcome Mr. George Gilbert.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee. As she said, I'm here today to talk about the importance of laughter. She said a real job. Well, actually, I take this job as a real job. Talking about the importance of laughter is very serious, because I take laughter seriously. Why? Because most people take laughter for granted. As children, we used to laugh on the average of 150 times a day, up to 400 times a day. But as we grew into adulthood, we now only laugh on the average of of 15 times a day. What has happened? We take laughter for granted. Dr. Albert Schweitzer didn't take laughter for granted. When Albert Schweitzer had his hospital in the middle of the African jungle, he made a point of having dinner with his staff every night so that he could tell them a humorous story, a joke, something to make them laugh. Because he knew if he could make them laugh, they could handle the stress of working under such terrible conditions with so many sick people. Day after day after day in the middle of the African jungle. Albert Schweitzer said, laughter is the nutrient of the spirit. But I have a confession to make. I don't have to go all the way to the African jungle to find stress. No, I'm married. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my wife. But the same person who gives me the most joy, the most happiness in my life, also creates the most stress in my life. And she's good at it. Oh, sometimes I swear she does it on purpose. Well, other times she does it without even trying. Now, to be fair, I probably create the most stress in my wife's life. When two people spend so much time together, there's bound to be stress. But experts say that laughter in marriage leads to marital satisfaction. Well, what does that mean? That means that we have to laugh more with our spouses. We have to have more good times with our spouses. We have to have the ability to laugh at the little annoying things that our spouses do. Now, for instance, my wife and I have been married for over 12 years. And for those 12 years, I have been trying to train my wife to remember to put that seat back up. is marriage. Oh, just ask any woman why she got a divorce, because I married the bum. Now, Paul Newman has been married for over 41 years to Joanne Woodward. A Hollywood marriage, both movie stars. Now, if you read the Globe, the Inquirer, People magazine, of course, no one's going to admit to that, but if you do read those magazines, you will know that a Hollywood marriage usually doesn't last 41 years. But Paul Newman said the secret to the success of their marriage, laughter got them through the rough patches. Well, what are rough patches? Rough patches are stressful times. We have them in marriage. We have them in business. We have them in life. Now, why do we need to laugh to reduce stress? Well, because experts say that laughter reduces stress. And long periods of stress can lead to mental illness. How many people today suffer from insanity? Well, actually, I see many of you enjoy it. The miniature clinic once said that laughter is the barometer to one's mental health. When a patient's ability to laugh returns, when his sense of humor returns, that is when mental healing can begin. I wonder how many of you think you're normal. Are you normal if you talk to yourself? Yes! As long as you know it's you. But if you talk to yourself and you answer with, huh? Who said that? Then maybe you need to laugh more. Sigmund Freud once said that 1 out of 4 suffers from mental illness. Think about that, 1 out of 4. When you get the opportunity to look around you. If the 3 people sitting next to you seem normal, then maybe you need to laugh more. Now, I have to admit, when I first started preparing for my speech today, I was wondering if this Prado Women's Club needed to hear about the importance of reducing stress with laughter because it could lead to mental illness. But getting here early and meeting a few of you people, getting to talk to some of you, I just hope I'm not too late. Now, laughter is not only good for us emotionally, but it's good for us physically. A recent movie came out called Patch Adams. A great movie. The true story of a doctor who bucked the system. When Patch Adams was in medical school, they tried what he calls dehumanizing. They just wanted him to treat the disease. They didn't want him to worry about the patient. And Patch said, no, this is wrong. I want to worry about the patient. I'll treat the disease, but let me treat the patient. And the way Patch Adams wanted to treat the patient was with the help of laughter. And he would walk into a pediatric cancer ward where there were all these children lying listlessly sick in bed with cancer. They had tubes coming out of their arms. They lost their hair to the chemotherapy. And he would go in there and do whatever he could do to make them laugh. He'd tell them jokes, do funny characters. He would even take a red enema ball, clipped off the tip of it, and put it on his nose. Put a bedpan on his head. And he got those kids to sit up and clap and laugh. Now, they were laughing because they know where bedpans go and enema balls, and you don't wear them on your face. Now, did he cure them of the cancer just with laughter? Of course not. That's not what I'm here today to say. But he put them in the proper frame of mind so that if healing could begin, it would. He also gave those children something they had lost being sick in bed. He gave them their childhood back. And every kid deserves to have a childhood. Laughter can get you through those tough physical times. Now, no speech on laughter laughter healing would be appropriate without talking about Norman Cousins, because Norman Cousins started this whole idea of laughter healing when he wrote his book, Anatomy of an Illness. There he chronicled how he helped cure himself of a chronic, painful disease with the help of laughter. And in his research, he discovered that the body produces a pain-killing drug naturally in our system called endorphins. And he found that if he could laugh for 10 minutes, he could get 2 hours of pain-free sleep. Norman Cousins also discovered that marathon runners produce endorphins when they run marathons. But I got a confession to make. I'd much rather laugh for 10 minutes than to have to run a marathon. So what happens to the body when we laugh? Well, when we laugh, we get oxygen in the blood system. We get bad air out of our lungs. We help lower our heart rate, lower the blood pressure. We even help boost the immune system with laughter. Maybe Reader's Digest is right when they say laughter is the best medicine. I'd like to tell you a very serious story about my wife and I. Earlier I was joking about my wife because laughter got us through some very tough times. My wife was diagnosed with diabetic kidney disease, and she needed to have a kidney transplant. While she was waiting for her transplant, my wife experienced just about all of the side effects that you can experience with diabetic kidney disease. She had to go on dialysis. Now that's not fun because they have to surgically implant a shunt in your arm. They hook tubes up to your arm so that they can filter your blood through this dialysis machine because your kidneys no longer filter your blood properly. She gained over 30 pounds, mostly in her legs. Getting out of bed was difficult, and going up just one step was almost impossible without assistance. Because of that diabetic kidney disease, she had very high blood pressure. She had to worry about heart attacks, stroke. She had to worry that her heart would be strong enough to withstand a transplant operation by the time she died. Because of that poor circulation due to diabetic kidney disease, when she stood up too fast, that high blood pressure dropped so drastically that she would get dizzy. She'd pass out. She'd fall down. And when she fell down, she would break something. Because as a side effect of diabetic kidney disease, she now had osteoporosis. So when she fell down, she broke her heel. She broke her pelvis in 3 places. She broke her ankle so bad that they had to put a pin, screws, and a plate. One morning she woke up, she was blind in one eye. Could barely see out of the other eye. She had a detached retina. She had bleeding in both eyes. She had to have painful retina surgery. All kinds of painful laser surgery. And then, just as those eye problems just about healed, bam! The other eye broke. More retina surgery. More laser surgery. Laughter got her through those tough times. Laughter kept her going. On July 2nd, 1994, I'm very proud to say that my wife received a kidney and a pancreas transplant. She was the ninth person at UCLA to receive a pancreas transplant. Laughter got her through those tough times. Now, because of the kidney and pancreas transplant, all those side effects have healed up. Her bones are stronger. She's back to work. She went back to work within 6 months after her transplant. I remember one time, while waiting for that transplant, she was having to have some more laser surgery. And we were in the doctor's office early, right after lunch. And we were the only ones there, and the doctor came through, didn't see us, and told his assistant to go fire up the motor. In other words, turn on that laser machine. He heard us laughing. And he came over and he said, "Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to make light of your surgery. I didn't want you to think I was joking about your surgery." And we said, no, joke about it. We need to laugh right now. It made it easier for her to go in and face that laser surgery. It also created a bond between doctor and patient that wasn't there before. And he took very special care of her after that. Her eyesight today, since that transplant, is almost 20/20 with a lens implant and contact lens. She can see to drive to work. She gets on the computer. Even after the transplant, laughter was vital. Laughter was vital when she rejected 3 times. And it seemed like every time that she rejected, it was on a special occasion. Her birthday, an anniversary, something. And it was her birthday, and I wanted, she was down, because just when you think everything's going to be okay, there's a possibility of losing everything. So I wanted to pick her up, and I went out to Sam's Club, got one of the biggest birthday cakes I could find. With balloons, a big card. Now she had tubes coming out of everywhere, out of her arms, down her throat, in her nose, out this way. And I walked in and I started to cut a slice of that birthday cake, and I said to my wife, "Dear, what tube would you like me to stuff this down?" Well, a tear started to come out of her eyes. And I thought, uh-oh, I went too far. I said, "I'm sorry." She said, "Oh, she could barely talk." I said, "Well, you're crying." She said, "It was some laughter." "I can't laugh right now. She's got a tube down her throat." But laughter got her through those tough nights. Now, the only time that laughter wasn't appropriate was the day after she had her transplant, because they had put staples all the way down. And I came into the room, and there were nurses and doctors in there, and family in there, and I'm joking around, and I'm telling jokes, and I've got the nurses laughing, I got her family laughing, had the doctor laughing. Now, if you can get a doctor laughing, we've done something. Tough room. And my wife says to me, barely talk, she's got tubes of me. "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just trying to make everybody laugh, feel good." She says, "Well, not today. I don't want to be in stitches, I'm in staples." It hurts to laugh. Although I remember when we were going to take her staples out, she was very nervous. She thought, "Well, that's going to be painful." She said, "How are they going to take those staples out?" I said, "Dear, they just go out and get a big staple remover and go." She started to laugh. Laughter gets you through those tough times. Yes, we had our pity parties. Of course we did. We had our depressions during that tough time. But laughter made it easier to get through those tough times. Laughter is so vital in our lives, and yet we take laughter for granted. Even comedians who rely on laughter to make a living take laughter for granted. I remember George Carlin once did a whole routine on how comedians describe laughter in such violent terms. And he'd use cliches like, "I killed that audience. They were rolling in the eyes. They busted a gut." Imagine that. Laughing so hard that you just busted a gut. "I had them in stitches." Well, of course you had them in stitches. They just busted a gut. And my favorite cliche of all time, they died laughing. How many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, I just died laughing"? How many times have you said to somebody, "I just died laughing"? But how many times have you actually heard someone die laughing? Probably never. I know I've never heard of anybody die laughing. I've never seen a coroner's report that said, "Cause of death, died laughing." Now, I grew up backstage. My parents were regarded as one of the funniest comedy variety acts of their time. Jack Benny once said that my mom and dad were the funniest act he had ever seen. I got to watch my parents make a lot of people laugh. I got to watch some great comedians, Jack Benny, Bob Hope, Alan King, Eddie Youngman, Red Skelton, make people laugh night after night after night. And on all these shows, no one ever died laughing. If someone were to die laughing, it would have had to have been on Rowan and Martin's Laughing Tour, the live version of their television show. They had the best of Rowan and Martin from that show. They had the best skits from that show with the stars of that show. Goldie Hawn, Henry Gibson, Joanne Worley. They had the best variety acts on that show, such as my parents. People started to laugh the time the lights went down, till after the lights went back on. And yet no one died laughing. The only casualty from that show was one lady laughed so hard that she got an uncontrollable bloody nose and had to be helped out. And even if someone had died laughing, I can only think of one better way I want to go. And it still involves a smile on my face. Now, I psychiatrist. I don't even have a PhD. If I had a PhD, it would only stand for Professional Humor Developer. But if you're feeling down, depressed, sorry for yourself, and you're all stressed out, and if you call me, the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is to please take 2 laughs and call me in the morning. Before I go today, I wouldn't be a professional speaker if I didn't have a book. So I recently went to a speaker's bureau and they said, George, you've got a pretty good speech, but do you have a book? And I wanted to impress them, so I said, sure, I've got a book. In fact, I've got several books at home. I've got the complete works of Shakespeare. And they said, no, George, you need to have a book published for credibility as a speaker. Well, I'm very happy to announce I have a book. It's called Take 2 Laughs and Call Me in the Morning. It's about the importance of laughter in our lives, how laughter reduces stress. Now, it's only been out a very short time, but I've already received hundreds of letters, and 2 letters from people I actually helped. One lady wrote me and said, George, you are so right, it's the little things in life that create stress. I had a table at home that wobbled. Every time I thought about that table wobbling, I'd get stressed out. Every time I put something on that table, I would get stressed out. I bought your book. I took it home. I put it right underneath that short leg. No more stress. Thank you, George. Another lady wrote me and said, George, I have been so stressed out, I can't sleep at night. I bought your book. I read just 1 page. Put me right to sleep. Thank you, George. The critics say that this is the type of book that once you put it down, you can't pick up again. What do they know? Now, I'd like to talk about the title, Take 2 Laughs and Call Me in the Morning. I have a confession to make. I did not come up with this title. My publishers came up with the title. I wanted to call it Laughter for Dummies. But they said that sounded like my autobiography. And who's going to buy that? So they came up with the Take 2 Laughs and Call Me in the Morning. Now I have to agree with the Take 2 Laughs, but please don't call me in the morning. I became an after dinner speaker, so I didn't have to get up so early. What time is it? Oh my God, it's early. Now, actually you can't call me in the morning, because after this book came out, I had to get an unlisted phone number. I got an obscene phone call. From a reader. From a lady. An obscene phone call from a lady. I was so shocked. The profanity that she used. It took me 45 minutes to hang up. I couldn't believe my mother would use that kind of language. She read my book. Now, you will not find this book on a bestseller list, although I tried. But a whole garage full of them. Now, my wife is trying to get me to get those out of there, so I brought a few today, so if anybody's interested, I would be happy to autograph one for $2. Okay, I won't go higher than 3. Anyway, it is true you cannot judge a book by its cover. It's not a bad cover. I wrote the cover. I just haven't quite finished writing the book. That's why it's a great bargain at $2. Next year when it's finished, it's $19.95. Now before I go, I would like to introduce to you my partner. If you haven't already figured it out, she's my mother. When she was introduced as being 70 years old. Actually, she lies about her age. She's actually 77 years old. Yes, we are. I'm the son. Another question they always have for my mom is, how do you stand up there at your age and speak for so long? Well, Mom, what is your secret?
Well, speaking is easy. It's the standing up that's hard.
And they're always asking me, how does she look good in her late 70s? Well, Mom, how do you look in your late 70s?
Well, if you want to look good in your 70s, hang around people who are 90. You know, I just take off my bra, pulls out all the wrinkles. I used to wear a 36B, but now I take a 36 long.
I do take laughter seriously. Please remember, when you're going through a stressful time, laughter can help you get through those tough times. Thank you very much.